Frank the Tank Nazar has arrived to the NHL, and he has done so in a big way. On today's episode, I'll talk about Nazar scoring in his NHL debut and the Blackhawks securing their spot in the 2024 NHL Draft Lottery.
You're Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome on into another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Jack Bushman. You can go and give me a follow on X at Jack Bushman2, and make sure to also go and follow my Strictly Blackhawks account at Talkin' Hockey for all the latest Blackhawks news and updates. And of course, please make sure to go and smash that like button, comment down below, and subscribe to the Locked On Blackhawks YouTube channel. All of that stuff is 100% free. It won't cost you anything and really does help me out tremendously. And I also got to let you know, today's episode is brought to you by the Sleeper app, the go-to platform for daily fantasy sports. And right now, if you use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps, you'll get up to an $100 match on your first deposit with Sleeper. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you all for joining me on another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, your one-stop shop for all things Chicago Blackhawks. Feels real good to be back. I know it's been a little bit of a hiatus here, and I apologize for that. Just a lot of life stuff going on here recently, but very excited to be getting back into full swing as the regular season comes to a close later on this week, which I'll be talking about all throughout today's episode, and some of the playoff races that are coming down to the nitty gritty here. Make sure to stay tuned for that part here in today's episode. But yeah, a lot of good NHL draft coverage coming up soon, as we know where the Blackhawks are going to be sitting in the draft lottery. Another spoiler alert for something I'll be talking about coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But yeah, going to be diving into player draft profiles starting later on this week, since a lot of the top prospects in the 2024 NHL draft are either coming towards the end of their seasons or have already had their years come to a close. I'm going to be diving into player profiles starting this week, so make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all of the breakdowns on the top prospects in the 2024 NHL draft. Looks like the Blackhawks, as of right now, are going to be having 2 picks inside the top 20. Certainly wouldn't mind the Tampa Bay Lightning losing their final games here of the regular season. And then, yes, before the NHL draft goes on later on this summer, I will be having a full force mock draft coming out. I'm going to be diving headfirst into this year's draft, another very crucial one for the future of the Chicago Blackhawks. So again, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can get all of the Blackhawks news and updates going on throughout the offseason leading up to this year's NHL draft. But without any further ado, we got to get to what's going on right here, right now with the Chicago Blackhawks. And first things first, we got to talk about my boy, Frank the Tank Nazar, stepping onto the scene, arriving to the NHL level and signing his entry-level contract. And I'll tell you what, Blackhawks fans, outside of Connor Bedard, there is no prospect in the Blackhawks pipelines that I've been more excited about over these last couple of years. And if you're a regular viewer or listener of the show, then you're well aware of that. I deemed him Frank the Tank for a reason, because I knew when the Blackhawks drafted this kid, he has all the tools to be a very, very special player. Unfortunately, missed the majority of his freshman campaign with the University of Michigan due to a lower body injury. Didn't really get to see a lot of Frank in his first season of action after the Blackhawks drafted him, but he certainly did not disappoint this year. A point per game player for the Michigan Wolverines, also a huge impact guy on the United States team that just won gold at the World Juniors this past winter. And unfortunately, Frank had his sophomore season with Michigan come to the end that he wasn't looking for here, as the Wolverines fell 4-0 to Boston College in the Frozen Four late last week. And then we finally got on Frank Nazar watch. It's something I've been talking about a lot over the last month or so. Is Frank going to sign his ELC? Is he going to turn pro? or is he going to elect to go back to Ann Arbor for his junior campaign, especially if Michigan didn't win it all, like is what happened. And I did wonder if there was going to be, some unfinished business on Frank's mind. But ultimately, the Blackhawks left the decision up to him, which I don't believe they've done with any of their other prospects. But they really left the ball in Frank Nazar's court. And he said, it was a tough decision. He made a pros and cons list with his family, but ultimately came to the decision that he was going to forego the rest of his eligibility and join the Blackhawks, signing a 3-year entry-level contract, a real quick turnaround for Frank after losing on Thursday in the Frozen Four. 3-year entry-level deal. Interestingly enough, though, he is going to be burning the first year of that by playing in these final 3 games this season. And honestly, that's not the worst thing ever. I'm sure there are some people wondering, why would they do that? Or maybe have some concerns about Connor Bedard, Kevin Korchinski, and now Frank the Tank Nazar becoming restricted free agents at the same point in time during the summer of 2026. But honestly, we've kind of seen Kyle Davidson go this route with some of the other Blackhawks prospects, and it feels like he really wants to get these guys to bridge deals as soon as possible. And by burning this year, it's probably not player friendly because it costs Frank another opportunity of a year's worth of action to get more and have a bigger argument for more money when he becomes an RFA. But ultimately, the Blackhawks have the decision here. And when the summer of 2026 rolls around, Frank could be a really solid player. Same with Kevin Korchinski, but it feels like Connor Bedard is the only one of those 3 who's really going to break the bank so soon. So I really don't think it's that big of a concern for the Blackhawks. That Frank is going to be burning his ELC. I think they did it that way on purpose, and I wouldn't have too many concerns considering all the money the Blackhawks are going to have down the road with getting those 3 under contract when they become RFAs in the summer of 2026. But like I said, a quick turnaround for Frank Nazar, immediately making his NHL debut last night as the Blackhawks took on the Carolina Hurricanes in their final home game of the year, and it didn't take long for Frank to make his presence felt. Just 10 minutes into his NHL debut, after having all the emotions running through him of hearing the anthem for the first time and having his rookie lap, Frank gets a breakaway opportunity and pots an absolute beauty for his first NHL goal, getting the monkey off of his back real quick. A heck of a celly as well, hitting the Isaac Howard World Junior style celly, maybe giving a little bit of a tribute to his United States teammate there. But what a moment there for Frank Nazar, just splitting right through the center of the ice, taking on a beautiful feed, and then a heck of a wrister going through the armpit blocker side of Kochetkov for his first NHL goal, a moment he will absolutely never forget. He actually had an opportunity to score on his opening shift of the game. Actually, I don't know. It wasn't his opening shift. I apologize. His opening power play shift of the game when he had a real good look in front, a yawning cage, but unfortunately just poked the shot wide a little bit. Didn't take him long to get that one back. First of many in what hopes to be a long, long career for my boy Frank Nazar. But other than the goal, I thought, considering everything that he's gone through the past 4 days, I thought he fit in rather nicely. And he showed his good speed down the middle. He's a 200-foot player. That's something you can expect out of him. He's not just an offensive-minded guy only. No, he can make an impact on the defensive side of things too. He's a really good and responsible back checker and forechecker. He's got high hockey IQ on the offensive side of things, probably more of a playmaker than a goal scorer, but I think he has an underrated and a still developing shot, and just the type of guy that on either side of the puck really, really can make his presence felt. And I thought he did that last night. Got 15 minutes and 55 seconds worth of action, lone shot on goal, wound up hitting the back of the net. Got some opportunities on the power play, which I like to see, as well as the penalty kill. And quite honestly, I think he could be a very good penalty killer type of player. I don't know if he's naturally going to be a power play one guy because of Connor Bedard. I'm sure he's going to get opportunities there. But I feel like he's probably more of a second power play guy, but has penalty killing upside as well. He's just a guy that's just going to make his impact felt all over the ice. And that's why I've been so excited about Frank. And I was ecstatic to see the type of year that he had. I felt like this was probably going to be the decision when talking about whether Frank was going to go pro or not in the last couple of weeks. I talked about how it seemed like things were kind of trending in this direction. And ultimately, I felt like it was going to be too good of an opportunity for him to pass up on. That winds up being the case. And boy, what a showing in his NHL debut last night against the Carolina Hurricanes. Unfortunately, the Blackhawks weren't able to get a win for him. Pretty much the same same type of night as Connor Bedard scoring his first NHL goal, although Frankie did flash a little bit of a smile to the cameras after the game. But the Blackhawks were right in this one with Carolina. It would have been awesome if they could have pulled out one final victory at home for the faithful on tap at the United Center. They jumped ahead 2-1 early on in the third period. Lucas Reichel, a nice play through the neutral zone, shot on goal. Andreas Athanasiou jumps on the rebound, but the Blackhawks kind of crumbled down the stretch, unfortunately. And because of that loss, we now know where the Chicago Blackhawks are going to be sitting in the 2024 NHL Draft Lottery, which is now less than 1 month away. But the main takeaway from last night, Frank Nazar arriving in a big way. Excited to see what he has in store for us over these final 2 games and hopefully in a long, long career as a cornerstone of the Chicago Blackhawks rebuild. I'll talk a little bit more about the Blackhawks securing their spot in the draft lottery here in just a second. But first, I need to talk to you all about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and to also level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. Plus, with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or else you'll get your money back. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and to bring home that win. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. Again, that's ebaymotors.com. Segment 2, with the regular season now winding down, the Blackhawks have only 2 games left on the schedule. And following last night's 4-2 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes, I'd like to officially announce that the Blackhawks have solidified the second to worst record in the NHL this season. I don't know how I can really say that with a smile on my face because it has been abysmal watching this team all year long. But with that, they finished the year 31st in the standings officially, regardless of what happens in these final 2 games. And that now locks them into a top 4 pick in the 2024 NHL Draft, and of course gives them the second best odds of landing number 1 overall selection. It isn't official yet, but it's going to be in just a couple of months. Macklin Celebrini on Friday, June 28th, as the Blackhawks have a 13.5% chance of selecting them. Taking a look at the standings here now, the Anaheim Ducks are going to finish in 30th with the 3rd worst record in the NHL. They only have 1 game left with 57 points on the season. As I said, the Blackhawks, with 2 games left on the schedule, they have 51 points, 6 points back of the Ducks, so they're not able to claw their way all the way up to the 30th spot. And then the San Jose Sharks, they also have 2 games left in the season, just like the Blackhawks do. They have 47 points, 4 back of the Hawks. Now, you may be thinking, well, what if the Blackhawks lose their final 2 games, San Jose wins, and they both have 47 points? Well, the Blackhawks got the better of the Sharks in their regular season meetings, so San Jose holds the tiebreaker in terms of finishing at the bottom. So no other way for the Blackhawks to go. They can't go up. They can't go down. They're locked into that 31st spot. And like I said, less than 1 month away, quietly, is the 2024 NHL Draft Lottery, Blackhawks fans. That's coming on Wednesday, May 8th. So make sure to have that one starred in your calendars there. You don't want to forget about it. I know you'll have several reminders from me and other Blackhawks outlets to not do so. But hopefully May 8th, 2024 will treat us as well as May 8th, 2023 did, and we can land the number 1 overall selection for the 2nd consecutive year. There are some other interesting storylines, I think, to watch here at the bottom of the standings with only 4 days left in the season. It's really between who's going to finish with the 5th, 6th, and 7th best odds at landing Macklin Celebrini. Montreal currently is the 5th worst team in the NHL, but they're only 1 point back of the Arizona Coyotes with 2 games to play. The Coyotes have 1 game left. but they're also just 1 point back of the Ottawa Senators. The Sens still have 2 games left. Seattle and Calgary both aren't out of reach for them with 79 points, while the Sens have 76. So there are some tight-knit battles going on in the middle there. I'm not sure exactly whether or not the front offices are going to want to be having those teams lose. That doesn't really happen in hockey like it does in the NBA, but could be some odds changing one way or the other for several teams here in these final few days of the regular season. So no matter what team you're a fan of, who you're rooting for, it's pretty interesting for everyone as we're down to the final week of the 2023-2024 NHL campaign. And on the flip side, Blackhawks fans, coming up in just a moment here before I wrap things up today, I still want to talk about all the playoff races that are going down across the NHL. A lot of close contested races that are coming down to the wire. But first, I need to talk to you all about Sleeper. We're getting close to the finish line here in the NHL's regular season, and the Stanley Cup playoffs are right around the corner. But regardless of where your team is at in the standings, I want to remind you that you could be winning big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. And Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy contests. And entries can be made in under a minute, and all you have to do is pick whether studs like Connor McDavid, Artemi Panarin, or Patrick Kane will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, points, shots on goal, plus minus, and more in any given game. And to win in 100x bet on 100x bet on Sleeper, all you need to do is correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me right, Blackhawks fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail the picks so you can start winning real big. And right now, you can also go and use the promo code LOCKDOWNNHL in all caps, and you'll get up to an $100 match on your first deposit with Sleeper. Again, that's promo code LOCKDOWNNHL in all caps, and you can go and see Sleeper's terms of use right now for more details. Back here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, please make sure to go and smash that like button, comment down below, subscribe to the Locked On Blackhawks YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. It won't cost you anything out of your wallet or out of your bank account, and it really does go a long way for your boy. So please make sure to take care of all of that, and also make sure to go and check out the new Locked On Sports Today, because Locked On has launched its first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. So make sure to go and check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Segment 3, as I've talked about all episode long, with the 2023-2024 NHL regular season wrapping up this week, as I've been doing for the last couple of months, it's time to get into one final update of the standings across the league and all the countless playoff races going down that will be settled over the next 4 days' time. And let me tell you, in every division, every conference, things are getting down to the nitty-gritty here. First, with the Central Division, the Dallas Stars have locked up the Central. As I expected, I've said all year long, I think Dallas will be the top team in the Central. I love their defense. I love their goaltending. And Ottinger hasn't even been as reliable as he has been over the last couple of years. Dallas still finishes on top of the deepest division in the West, undoubtedly. I really like their chances in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Spoiler alert. The only battle going on still in the Central Division, folks, is who's going to finish in the second spot and who's going to finish third. Currently, the Winnipeg Jets have 106 points with 2 games left on the season, while the Colorado Avalanche are 1 point back at 105. but they only have one game left on the year. I predicted the Avs would come away with the second spot. Winnipeg would finish third. Still could possibly be in the cards, but honestly, with just, one win, Winnipeg can seal that over their last two games. So I probably predict it to go that way, but boy, oh boy, what a tilt that is going to be in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs between the Winnipeg Jets and those whiteouts rocking up in Winnipeg, along with the Colorado Avalanche, the Stanley Cup champions from 2 years ago. The Nashville Predators have solidified their fourth spot in the Central and will be making the playoffs as well. But first, moving to the Pacific Division, the Vancouver Canucks, they haven't technically clinched up the division yet, but likely going to happen. I projected them to finish first. They've kind of been coasting in that spot for the last several months now. Not going to win the President's Trophy, though, which I thought they were going to do based off the start they got off to, but still very good season for them. A much better year than most expected out of Vancouver. They currently have 107 points with 2 games left on the schedule. Not good enough to clinch up the Pacific yet, as the Oilers are 5 points back with 3 games left on their schedule. They'd have to win all 3 of those, and the Canucks would have to lose out in order for the Oilers to win the division this year. Don't expect that to happen, but I did project Edmonton would make a charge going into the playoffs and would finish in the second spot. The only battle going on left in the Pacific is who's going to get the third spot and who's going to be in the wild card. Only 1 point separating the Los Angeles Kings, who are currently in third, and the Vegas Golden Knights, who are currently in fourth. The Kings have 97 points with 2 games left, while the Knights have 96 points with 2 games left as well. I predicted that just Vegas having that experience and knowing it's not necessarily as crucial for them to have home ice. It's just all about getting in, and they have all that experience in the most meaningful time of the year. I kind of figured they'd be the team that was more so okay with holding a wild card spot. I predicted that the Kings were going to finish third in this division, so I'm going to stick with my guns there. We'll see how it shakes out, but either way, both of those teams are going to the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. Nashville is currently in the first wild card spot with 99 points. They haven't quite clinched that spot yet, as the Canucks are currently 3 points back with 2 games left on their schedule. Both Los Angeles or Vegas could still technically get that top final wild card spot. Still some things to shake out. The only matchup we know for sure is Winnipeg will be facing Colorado, but still a lot to be settled here in the West during these final 4 days. Unfortunately for the Blues and for the Wild, their quest for the Stanley Cup playoffs came up a little bit short this year. And then moving out to the Eastern Conference, this is really where it gets more intriguing in my mind. Starting with the Atlantic, a battle for the top seed out there. Boston, 1 point ahead of the Panthers. They have 109 points with 2 games left, while Florida has 108 points with only 1 game left. I predicted that Boston would outduel Florida to win the top spot in this division. We'll see if they'll be able to hang on. The advantage is certainly in their side. And then I also predicted Toronto would hang on over Tampa to get the third spot here. Another tough first round matchup coming for them either way, if it's going to be the Bruins or the Florida Panthers. And then in the Metro, this is the craziest race of them all. The New York Rangers currently have the top spot in the division with 112 points with 1 game left. That comes tonight. If they win, they will receive the President's Trophy, but they only have a 1 point lead right now on the Carolina Hurricanes, who have 111 points with also 1 game left in the season. What a charge they've made late here. Freddie Anderson has been really good. Their deadline acquisitions seem to have really gotten them over the hump. Can they do that in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time here under Rod Brindamore's guidance? And then the rest of the division, oh boy, it is up for grabs here in these final few days. The Islanders currently have the 3 spot. They're sitting in the prettiest position with 90 points and 2 games left in the year. They're 3 points ahead of the Washington Capitals, who have 87 points with 2 games left. Also 3 points ahead of the Detroit Red Wings, who also have 87 points with 2 games left, and 3 points ahead of the Philadelphia Flyers, who have 87 points with only 1 game left on the year. I predicted that the Flyers were going to be able to hang on, but doesn't seem like the momentum is trending in the right direction for them. Torts has kind of been making some interesting decisions late in the year. Looks like it's not going to be enough for the Flyers. The Penguins aren't dead yet either. They have 86 points, but with only 2 games left, they need to win out just to have a chance to sneak into that wild card. Tampa has secured the first wild card spot out east with 96 points with 2 games to go. But other than that, yeah, it is going to come down to the final day. The Capitals, Red Wings, and Flyers all have 87 points, but the Capitals are the ones who have the tiebreaker over the Red Wings, who have the tiebreaker over the Flyers. And then the Penguins are also 1 point back with 2 games left on the season. I predicted that it was going to be Tampa and Philadelphia who is going to come away with those last 2 playoff spots. I said the Islanders were going to be the team to sneak into the division. Man, Detroit is pushing hard. How cool would it be to see Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat together? I know it sucks watching them play for the Detroit Red Wings, but would be pretty cool to see Patrick Kane kind of help get Detroit back to the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time in several years. So lots to be looking out for here before the regular season comes to an end on Thursday. Lots of playoff races going on in every division, and a lot to keep an eye out for at the bottom of the standings as well. Who is going to be joining the Blackhawks and having, the top 6 odds to land Macklin Celebrini? We know where the Blackhawks are going to sit. We know where the Sharks are going to sit. We know where the Ducks are going to sit. But it's all coming down to the final week of the regular season, as it should be. A lot to be watching. I hope everyone out there enjoys. All right, that's going to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Blackhawks. As always, thank you all again for tuning into the show. Be sure to go and follow Locked On Blackhawks for free right now, wherever you may be listening to your podcast. Rate and review the show as well. That always helps me out. And also make sure to subscribe to the Locked On Blackhawks YouTube channel. That way you can get the latest episode as soon as it's uploaded to YouTube each and every day. As always, I'm your host, Jack Bushman. Can find me on X at JackBushman2, and also go and follow my Strictly Blackhawks account as well at Talkin' Hockey, so that way you can get all of the latest Blackhawks news and updates. So until tomorrow's episode, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. It feels good to be back. Lots of good stuff coming up here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast. Until then, I'll see you next time.